What is the most wholesome fact you know? In Amsterdam, if someone has no next of kin or close family and dies, then a poet will be asked to read at their funeral. The voices of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse got married in real life. Wayne Allwyn, the voice of Mickey for more than 30 years, married the woman who voiced Minnie. Russi Taylor. First one that comes to mind is something along the lines of this: during the Second World War, an American B-17, I think it was the Flying Fortress, was trying to make her way back home heavily damaged. A German 109 fighter saw it and decided to investigate. The pilot noticed the guns weren't manned and the insane amount of damage the plane had. A good chunk of fuselage was missing along the side. Flew up beside the bomber and caught eye contact with the American pilot. He waved. The German pilot then escorted the bomber back to American territory, where the German pilot waved off. These two pilots met each other after the war and became friends. I've got a pair of cardinals that come to the feeder every day. I noticed that sometimes the male feeds the female. The female quickly shakes her tail feathers and the male responds by picking up a seed in his beak and feeding it to the female. I learned that this is part of their mating behavior. It allows the male to practice feeding because he'll have to fill in for the female when she occasionally leaves the nest with the hatchlings in it. Plus it's just adorable. Cows have best friends, and when paired together, their heart rates are significantly lower and they experience less stress overall, less than 3. In Germany, they have these frog fences. These fences keep the frogs from crossing the roads and getting run over. At the end of the day, somebody comes by and gathers the frogs and helps them cross the road. Bob Ross would receive letters every week from his regular viewers. When a regular would stop writing to him, he would call them and make sure they're okay. Bob Ross also once got a letter from a colorblind viewer who said they can't paint due to their colorblindness. He then did an episode where he made a painting entirely out of gray colors to prove that anyone can paint. Mr. Rogers hand-wrote letters back to everyone who wrote to him. Dogs will modify their play with puppies to let the puppy win. My dog treats our cat like a puppy and will lay on his side, only using his front paws to defend himself. He usually lets the cat win and then she struts around. It's adorable. Children who are deaf and raised by deaf parents will sign repetitive sounds and words at about the same rate hearing babies acquire language. Deaf babies basically sign goo goo ga ga the same way hearing children babble when developing language. There's a species of bees that sleeps in flowers called globe mallows. 2 were photographed cuddling, sleeping together as the surrounding flowers were occupied. It's illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland. You have to own 2 because they get lonely by themselves. Billy Joel never sells front row seats. Instead, he gives them away for free to fans who can't afford them. This probably isn't the most wholesome, but it's the first I thought of. In this era of evil corporate overlords, let's remember Saran Wrap. Have you noticed that Saran Wrap kinda sucks these days? It seems like it barely sticks like it used to and doesn't preserve food as long. You might think this was due to cost-cutting measures to line investor and executive pockets. That's the usual reason products go to. The actual reason is that the key chemical used in its manufacture was determined to be bad environmentally. They were unable to find a replacement that provided the same performance. There were no regulations requiring them to change the formula, and changing it would surely hurt their market share. They did it anyway without any fanfare, and it was a big hit to their bottom line. But they stuck to it because it was the right thing to do. In New Zealand, if you need to call the emergency services, you can just ring the number you would use in your own country and you will get through. 911, 111 999. It is so that in a situation when you are panicking, you don't need to remember a new number to get help. You know when babies are smiling and laughing, but then they suddenly turn away? They're having a happiness overload. Basically, their brains can't handle all the excitement they're experiencing by what they see. So the only remedy is to just not look anymore. Penguins spend a lot of time looking for a pebble to give to another penguin to propose. If the other penguin accepts it, they mate for life. In some countries, they have wildlife crossings, which are just grassy green bridges running over highways for animals to cross. So they don't have to cross the highway. I think it's the purest thing in the world. My favorite is the Christmas truce of 1914. Basically during the Christmas Eve and day German and British soldiers had multiple soccer games against each other in no man's land during the ceasefire. Just shows that soldiers are people and not extensions of their country's ideology. Volvo was going to patent the modern seatbelt. But they revoked the patent in the interest of saving lives. Mr. Rogers began announcing that he was feeding the fish in every show because a father and his blind daughter would always tune into the show. And they wrote to him to explain that she would get very concerned that the fish were not fed on the days that he didn't announce it. Swans only have one partner. If separated, they spend their whole life looking for them. Most sharks only bite people because they don't have hands and are just curious. Good day mate, how are you doing? Just going to give you a nibble to say hi. Oh my god, your bloody arm came off my bad. Ooh, that looks bad, are you okay? You know what, I'm just going to leave. Okay, so I circled around a bit, seems you haven't made it far. That's a lot of blood mate, here I'll try to give you a boost. Let me just grab that thrashing leg. Oh come on, it's bleeding now too. You know what, I'm done with you bleeding all over my house, I'm just going to eat you to clean this mess up. Nothing against you. Mr. Rogers was riding with a chauffeur and the chauffeur mentioned that they were driving by his house. Mr. Rogers asked to come meet his family and spent the evening having dinner and played the piano while everyone sang songs. Since the corona outbreak in the U.S., many animal shelters have seen a big uptick in adoptions. Otters like having pebbles and they even have pockets where they keep their favorite pebbles. They'll pull them out and rub their faces on their pebbles. You know how rain smells good? Rain doesn't actually smell like anything. But water will amplify scents. The earth smells really good all the time. But we just don't notice until it gets boosted by the rain. Looking into your dog's eyes produces the same brain chemicals for you and the dog that mothers feel when they stare at their babies. Edit. And I'm pretty sure they're the only, or one of few, animals we have this connection with. If you applaud your dogs, they start wagging their tails. Blind people smile like everyone else. Even though they've never seen anyone else smile. It's just a natural human expression. People in long-term relationships, whether romantic, friendly or professional, subconsciously form a macroorganism together. Your brains work together to determine each other's strengths and assign tasks accordingly to become a more efficient and tightly bonded functioning unit. Where your skills are maximized and you can save effort on the stuff your partner kicks at. You share a joint superbrain brain red heart. In the Netherlands we have special wildlife bridges. It kind of look like a hill with a tunnel through it, but it is a part of artificially created forest to make sure wildlife can safely cross the highway. I'm over 5 years sober. And I never have to drink again. This will probably be buried. I don't think you guys would think it's super wholesome, but to me it is. When Ringo left the Beatles during the White Album sessions, the Beatles wrote him a letter, telling him to come back and even calling him the best drummer in the world. And, when he came back, George Harrison decorated his drum set in flowers. I think it's sweet because even though tensions were high in the studio, you can see that they cared about each other. When your body does that weird falling thingy when going to sleep, it's because your body is not sure if you are dying or falling asleep and gives you an adrenaline boost just in case. Something about it makes me feel great. Most humans are inherently good and willing to help you in any way. You've been helped by a stranger more often than you've been hurt. Online too. We just remember the bad ones. Sunflowers usually look at the sun, but when they can't find it they look at each other. Sunflower 1. Bro, where is the sun? Sunflower 2. You are my sun bro. Sunflower 1. Bro. There is this mouse. And it loves pollen so much it falls asleep inside the flower. Babies don't lie to you, so making one laugh is a great, beautiful thing. Capybaras are highly social and raise their young communally, which makes them good foster parents for other animals. Edit. C.R. Critterson capybaras. I found out not so long ago. Seals do something called a banana pose when they are happy, safe, or trying to warm up. From what I researched, penguins can form homosexual relationships, and will even adopt orphaned penguin chicks. Happened at the Central Park Zoo, where some zookeepers gave them an abandoned egg and they ended up raising the baby to maturity. That new penguin ended up being and paired up with another female penguin. Zoos in Germany, the UK, And even China have copied this with other penguin couples and abandoned eggs.